Do you like to be known as Marion Cohen or Marion Deutsch Cohen?
Yeah, I use, as my pen name, I use Marion Deutsch Cohen.
Deutsch,
yeah.
okay.
Deutsch, just without the
Without
the end.
because I had
But it's the German
I had
pronunciation,
German
I
in
guess,
high
right?
school, so I have to say
Yes,
that.
I understand. I get it. I get it.
Marion's latest poetry books are
Yes.
Truth and Beauty. That's one. Closer to Dying. And What I'm Wearing Today, which is the last one is about the joys, angst, and politics of thrift shopping. And her books total 27. I guess that's 27 books, yes. Including Crossing the Equal Sign. That's an ominous one. And two controversial memoirs of spousal chronic illness. So it's quite a range there. Marion teaches math and writing at Arcadia University in Glenside, PA, where she has developed the course Mathematics and Literature. Not how to keep mathematics out of literature, but mathematics and literature.
Yeah.
And the book Truth and Beauty is about the interaction in that course among students and teachers. Other interests include classical piano, singing, Scrabble, thrift shopping, 4 grown children, and 5 grands.
Including twins.
Great. And so it's up to you how you want to run the next part. What do you want? Interactions or not?
I thought I would do a reading, but yeah, I tend to do interaction too as well when I teach and when I read. So there'll be some interaction. Yeah. So all right. So the last time I read here, 2.5 years ago, and I started with an old poem of mine that I wrote, many years ago, many decades ago. It's called Daughter of Culture. And it's one reason, it talks about one reason I write, among other things. There are many reasons I write, and this is one reason. But you'll find out some more about me while reading this poem. It's one of my probably many autobiographical poems, I guess we could call it that. It's called Daughter of Culture. And we could also summarize it by saying that I grew up feeling that my parents loved Beethoven, Freud, Marx, more than they loved me. And actually, they admired them probably more than they admired me, but they admired me too. Well, you'll see. Or you won't see it this time. Whatever, how's that? It's called Daughter of Culture. Down all the long white hallways and around all the slippery corners and behind the layers of glass and under the perfectly folded blankets, I lay weeping and screaming, "Oh, Mother," while you propped yourself up in bed to converse with the learned doctor. Not about me, Mother, not about the meaning of baby me, but about the meaning of Balzac, Kafka, and Henry James. In the home you brought me to, my pictures got tacked onto bulletin boards, or dripped dry and wet on cellar walls, while Chagall floated over the kitchen table, and Van Gogh, 3 feet by 4, meditated over the well-dusted piano. You hushed my improvising and smiled resigned at my sonatinas, and whatever I arrived home from, Beethoven from your instruments greeted me on the porch stairs long before you did. 20 years later, my poems flutter in your bottom drawers or suffocate in photograph albums, while Emily Dickinson poses on the front bookcase. Pablo Neruda rests thick and soft by your bedside, and Virginia Woolf stares into your bedroom, surrounded by wide mat and gold frame. Mother, oh Mother, someday, I swear, I will get my poems between hardcovers. I will get introductions for my poems. I will get reviews for my poems, so that you will put me on your walls and shelves, so that you will put me where you eat and sleep. so that if ever I do crawl back into your womb, if ever you do get to give birth to me again, you will pack me in your suitcase and keep me by your bedside. So this time you and your learned doctor will watch and discuss me.
May I ask you a question?
And that was before I published my first book many years ago, and it was a soft-covered chapbook, sort of looking a little bit this size.
Were your parents from Europe?
No,
No?
no, my grandparents were, but not my parents, no. Yeah, and I got reviews for my poems every once in a while, you know. They come dribbling in, not like Sharon Olds, you know, she really gets a different review every well-known poet. Probably gets a different review every day. Yeah, so, was I gonna read this? No, I'm gonna read this later. Yeah, I'm gonna read this later. Okay, so, I don't know, is this crowd anti-Trump or not? Maybe not, okay. Pardon?
It's not partisan, as far as I know.
It's not partisan.
But you're welcome to be.
I'm ready to read from this,
You're welcome to
from the
be
not
either
our,
way.
but not our president anthology,
We're not gonna
okay?
walk out.
It's a little tight, that's good,
Let's just say
All
we're
right.
not gonna walk out.
that's good, that's good. All right, so this is called First Trump Nightmare, which I had I think I had it, might have had it the night of the election, not sure. So it's a nightmare. Somehow, he and I are taking a walk. He's confiding in me, telling me that he killed a man, killed him because he didn't like him. I love being confided in, but this time I'm afraid. I just know that in a matter of minutes, his voice will turn sadistic, as it says. Now, how will I know you won't tell anyone? Yes, indeed, how will he know? And whom will he confide in next? Now I'll read my thrift store poems.
Oh, good.
Oh, good. Right. Thrift store and flea market.
What's the name of this book?
But this is called What I'm Wearing. And by the way, a lot of my books are for sale here. This is called What I'm Wearing Today. This is what I'm wearing today, but usually it's black. I decided to make a change. But yeah, the jewelry, it's all from thrift stores, purses, you know. All right, so I guess maybe you could tell from the introduction that I'm also a mathematician, math person. And yeah, I do some of my own math ideas, otherwise known as math research. And it often happens that I can't prove a theorem. You know, I think of a theorem which is called a conjecture, so I don't know whether the theorem's true or not. Anyway, this poem is called When I Can't Prove a Theorem. It's one of the main reasons I like thrift shopping, this poem here. When I can't prove a theorem, I stop putting in time and get out into space and matter. Matter. The colors and flows of skirts and dresses, the perfect schlock of jackets and vests. Yes, time to graze in these fields of dreams. Theorems are pretty, but not always to be had. In the thrift stores, anything pretty is to be had. And this is called, I'll read both of these on this page. It's called Dream of the Cure for the Evil Woman. So it's a dream that I had, and it's the title that I thought of. But I have a series of evil woman poems. And one of the reasons I guess, that I write these poems is in response to the death penalty, which I'm against. And also about our justice, so-called justice system. I think that evil is a problem for all of us, not only for those who actually commit evil. I'm not only victims, obviously. Obviously, it's a problem for the victims. Yes, but we all, either we have evil in us or we think about evil, and so on. So I think about what it would be like to be evil. I like to think I'm not evil, Anyway, this is called Dream of the Cure for the Evil Woman. An evil woman is running behind me. I'm also running, but not all that fast, for she isn't chasing me and I'm not trying to get away. The evil woman wants only to show me some of her jewelry. And wonderful jewelry it is. there's this big dramatic 80s silver-colored necklace. It would cover a lot of black top. I can still see that necklace. It's a circle, maybe 3 inches in diameter, just enough design, and a super cool double chain. She's also got an even bigger one. This one's a semicircle, the diameter at the top. I changed my mind. That's the one I want. I ask her the price, and the dream ends while I'm waiting for the answer. If I could only not wake up, the evil woman will give me her answer. And this is called Dream of the Changeable Clothes Rack. And this clothes rack will be back later on during this reading. But in the hallway, just outside our bedroom, is a clothes rack. It has to be there because the closets aren't enough to contain all the clothes that I own. So they're mostly for dresses. Dream of the Changeable Clothes Rack. In the middle of the night, I noticed that the dresses on the real-life clothes rack in the hallway are missing. Well, I think I'll just have to get all new dresses. Then I go back to bed and get up again, and the dresses are still gone. I do that once more, and this time there are clothes on there, but they're baby clothes. Well, I guess I'll just have to have another baby, because I think I'm babies. Ooh, I turn to, yeah, here it is. Pride, it's called. Not only should gays be out of the closet, clothes should be out of the closet. They should be hanging on doors, draped over chairs, sprawled across beds. Maybe they should even be thrown on floors. As for things we decide to keep in closets, because there isn't enough room out of closets, well, closet doors should be open. And here's, this book is called Closer to Dying. And I say in this, in the thing in the back of the book, about the book, that's a title of the book. It's not really meant to be the theme of the book, and I was 2 years younger, considerably younger, when I first wrote the book and found a publisher for it and so on. And I said that I didn't really think a whole lot about being closer to dying, but now I think more about it, actually. But first I'm going to read these poems. So the first, this has nothing to do with being closer to dying. It has to do with when I was a kid taking piano lessons. It's called sight reading. My mother said, watch one measure ahead. But that seemed a hard musical life, always straining to the right, eyes time-traveling alone, staring at a measure which clashed with what the rest of me was doing right then. And when I decided to read that poem, I realized this other poem that I've been wanting to write. It's actually untitled. I have to think of the title for it. Talking about who's the one who was somebody here who said the title. Okay, maybe it'll be another title. That was okay. All right. So no title, but it's also a My Mother. I actually have a lot of My Mother Said poems. This is a My Mother Said about playing the piano. It's advice, My mother said, first look at the key signature. How many sharps, how many flats, for anyone who doesn't know. My mother said, first look at the key signature, but I'm always impatient. So that's one of my main sources of mistakes. Becky and I call them flubs. She and I played violin and piano together. We call our mistakes flubs. Okay. 2 flats when it's supposed to be 3, or vice versa. The mistakes usually last only a page or 2. Yeah, for the most part, I get away with not looking at the key signature. It was worth a page or 2 of flubs.
Can you read the poem that you read right before that one again?
Okay.
The one about...
Yeah, no, I know which one. It's the first poem in this book, actually. And it's relatively short, so yeah, because I still have to find it. Here we go. So sight reading. Mm-hmm. My mother said, watch one measure ahead. But that seemed a hard musical life, always straining to the right, eyes time-traveling alone, staring at a measure which clashed with what the rest of me was doing right then. So one measure ahead.
I get it,
Yeah.
Now you get it. All right.
That could be the blurb on a...
This is my son Devin, the artist. He's an artist. He's an actual artist.
What did you want to say?
That poem could be a lovely blurb on the front of a mindfulness meditation brochure.
Oh, okay, thank you. Well, let me know if the mindless meditation brochures are
I'm
looking
not
for a
supposed to look
poem.
ahead.
Pardon?
I'm not supposed to look ahead. You're supposed to stay
You're
in the
supposed
moment.
to
Oh, gotcha.
yeah.
look
Okay.
ahead so that when you come to the notes, they're in your mind.
And I usually still don't look one measure ahead, even, you know. Sometimes they do, and it actually does make
Well,
it
it's not
make fewer
gospel.
mistakes.
It's applicable to some circumstances and not others. Because
Well-
when I learned to drive, my driving instructor told me to always look a block ahead. Any,
Wow.
any problems, pedestrians,
Yeah.
animals.
I guess there are things to be said about looking ahead, but also things to be said
Yeah,
about
I
not
think you
looking,
kind of have to
not
balance.
looking ahead.
You
Yeah.
don't want to do it all the
First-
time.
First time my daughter crashed her car, she called me and said, "Daddy, I want you to know I'm okay." And now I know what you mean
And the
by
car
looking,
isn't.
by looking 2 cars ahead. Not just the car right in front of me.
Oh,
But it took a crash course.
Oh, I like
for her
that.
to-
you gotta write a poem about it. You gotta. That's
Player
gotta-
pianos can't help but be out.
It's a joke, it's also a poem. Remembering having a mother. So how many here no longer have mothers and remember having a mother? Mine died rather early. I was 36 when she died, and pregnant. But anyway,
That's a
remembering
shame.
having a
You
mother.
didn't get to see your baby. Huh?
She did, actually the one before that had died a year before, and the baby, I mean, and she didn't get to see that baby, it's a third, so she of course got to see my first 2 babies, but,
Looks
yeah,
down from
well, okay, I don't, yeah, maybe. But there's more things about my mother than all that. Right? And it's called Remembering Having a Mother. So this alludes to actually what I said. Her lap was something not to crawl into. If I did, it was something to slide down off of. She would catch me in her arms, but not draw up her knees. And I think of her as little, or maybe just far. When they picked me up from summer camp, the air thinned out, I breathed her in. But she was not a lap, not even then. She was in the front seat with Daddy. That's how I think of her, in the same car, but not in the same seat. And actually, she was very loving, but I hope not as loving as I was with my own kids. So I'm going to read a poem called, I'll talk about that now, moving back, or forward, no, moving back. This is called Poem for San Francisco Reading, where I did a reading. Actually, John had a conference in San Francisco, and I went with him, and a friend of mine got me to do, she arranged me for me to do a reading. And I brought as many poems as I thought I would want to read, at that reading. But then I kept thinking of other poems, and that's what this is about, that I didn't have with me. Poem for San Francisco Reading. In camp, there was the family back home. In college, there was the boy back home. And here, now, at this vacation reading, there are the poems back home. There are also plenty of poems right here, and I've just written some more. But I still want to read, I'm dying to read, I can't help thinking about the poems back home. And I have written down with page numbers. Okay, I think I'll read this one next. It's called Before I Knew About Writing. And it goes back to before age 2. I'm one of those people who remembers a lot about my early childhood. Anyone here remember before age 2? Before age 3? 4? 3?
70? 70?
Going up, going up, going up.
How early do you remember, Bob?
4.
4.
4.
I
Yeah.
don't remember the exact age, but I remember studying ants under the window when I was supposed to be asleep in the summer when it was still light out. It was bedtime. I got up What is up?
It's always when you're doing something wrong that you remember.
Yeah.
Oh.
I remember being fascinated by the ant.
No, I think we remember the punishment.
Yeah.
If there was, or the scolding, whatever, and we say, I can't, what was I doing wrong? We don't remember what we were doing wrong.
I remember what I was doing wrong.
What were you doing wrong?
Well, we don't have time for that. Really.
Oh, is that bad, huh? Or that long?
How old were you?
Well, I had a little doctor's kit, and I had the little girl from down the street over,
Oh,
and
you
she
played
needed a
that.
shot.
Oh.
oh,
And the only place you give people shots is in the
in
bottoms.
those-
I've heard that before.
Yeah.
You show me yours, I show you mine,
Oh, you're playing that, yeah. That's not so bad, and it's not so long.
How old were you? 4? 5?
35.
3 or 4. 3 or 4.
5.
Now, like nowadays, right?
35, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like nowadays.
Politicians.
Politicians were
Defense.
Democratic too, I just found
Never
it.
going to become a United States Senator that way.
But before I knew about writing, oh, how do we get in all that? Okay. Before I knew about writing, I still knew about thinking. When I had an interesting thought, I knew it in whatever language I knew. I carried my interesting thoughts all the way to age 11, when I learned about real writing, not only school compositions or cute rhyming birthday cards. I had steered my interesting thoughts safely to that shore. I finally had hard copies of what, for so long, had been too soft. Okay. And now, what do I want to read here? Okay, yeah, I want to read, well, yeah, okay. Yeah, this is a closer to dying poem. And it's subtle, though. It's a dream, which I feel is a death dream. Maybe not. I just have to find it. It's the last poem in the book. There's a few, yeah, there's, okay, a few death dreams. Okay. Subtle death dreams. Yes. Subtle death dreams. Okay, the persistence of anticipation.
You're
And this was a
anticipating-
dream, too.
You're anticipating your death.
No, this was a, well, could be, of course. Anticipatory grief, right? This was a dream also. I didn't write it as a dream, but yeah. The persistence of anticipation. Who brought the attic furniture down to the kitchen? And who added those bookcases from your childhood house? Now what? The furniture's all gone. Is that why the walls are crying? And now there's been another decision. Your entire house has been relocated to suburban station. They've cleared one of the tracks to accommodate it. But wait, on the opposite track from the left, here come some old friends. Their single car is moving, though. You'll have to talk fast. Hey, how are you? You all look great. It's been 10 years and you look just the same. You too, they shout back, just the same, just the same. If everybody's just the same, why does the architecture keep changing? Furniture down to the kitchen, right? Bookcases from the childhood house. Furniture completely gone. Move us to the station, down the tracks. Yeah, the more I think about it, more death poem that feels like. Okay, and now I'm going to read from Truth and Beauty, the one about my course. So in this course, I word the homework questions in such a way that the students are encouraged, strongly encouraged, but also not required to share their own lives, their own thoughts, their own feelings. So I don't necessarily, I don't know, I've never taught any other literature course, so I don't know whether, but it seems that other literature courses don't encourage the readers, you know, to literature to, you know, think of their own lives and how it applies to their own lives, at least not the way I do. So what results is a lot of interesting conversations. So I'm going to read quotes from that. So students have shared a lot. Okay.
It's okay, I'm actually getting. Cool.
They write a term paper, an 8-page or so, term paper. And one suggestion that I have for them to write, which many of them take, is to write a math memoir. So many of them don't like math, many of them hate math, many of them, some of them love math, some of them, right? So I'm interested to hear from people who don't like math, who are afraid of math. That's probably really what's going on. But I'm always finding interesting things about why people don't like math. Mostly it has to do with the way it's taught, the way it's presented to them, but perhaps not always. Anyway, so this is just called, and I changed the names of the students. This is called Marta's Math Memoir. Into the dreaded pre-calc exam walked Marta, accompanied by calculator, 2 pencils, and 3x5 note card with only formulas, no examples. The card was covered, no margins left, with the smallest, neatest formula she'd been able to muster. She'd used every square quarter-inch of space. Still, there was some left for her to have written, "You can do it. You will do great." No matter what the rules were, she made room for that. And she did do great, actually. So she wrote later on in the memoir. Okay, and this is called The Lives of Some People. And we had a conversation during seat work. Seat work is when the students discuss among themselves in groups or across the room if they want to about, about the reading. So before we do class conversation, before they do their homework and so on, answer the homework questions, they can discuss among themselves in groups. And we just got into this conversation, a bunch of us. It's called The Lives of Young People. Nikki has parent problems. Melanie has boyfriend problems. Practically everybody has end of semester problems and end of college years problems. Oi, I say, it's so hard to be young. I'm so glad I'm old and don't have those kinds of problems. Things are so much more settled when you're old. Hang in there, guys. Only 50 more years and you'll be old too.
And mostly they have amateur blends, not pro blends.
Oh, what?
They have amateur blends. They don't have pro blends.
You
Pro
mean not
baseball
con
player?
blends?
No, like pro baseball
Oh,
player.
you're thinking of different.
They're amateur blends.
I'm thinking of con blems instead of poem. Lots of jokes in here. Right. So this last poem from this book is called "Do You Like the Please at the End?" Because we studied a poem called, wasn't called Please, was called Yes, in which the author speculated on what it was like to have your life pass before you, just before you die, and he speculated in a mathematical way that having his life pass before me would include, for him, for us, any of us, right, would include his having his life pass before him at the end, which would include having his life pass before him, and so on, ad infinitum, right? And he said, and he speculates about that. He says he would like it, even though there might be some objections to that happening, which our class talked about. But at the end, he says, "Yes, please, yes, yes, yes." And I wanted that, yes, yes, please. He ends it, please, with the word please. So I asked the students if they liked. This is a poem that somebody else wrote, in our poetry text.
Do you think it's an allusion to the last soliloquy in Ulysses?
Yes, 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 you mean the Molly Bloom thing?
Yeah, the Molly Bloom.
Maybe. I've written a few Molly Bloom poems.
Oh, yes. Tell us
But
those.
this isn't one of them. But yeah, it could be. It's not quite like that part, the Molly Bloom, yes. But he does say yes a lot in the poem. Correct, yeah. So I'm not sure actually, but probably.
I think over the centuries, people have said yes repeatedly, many times,
And
without
maybe
having
before.
read James Joyce.
And right, or before, right. But anyway, so I asked the students if whether they liked the please at the end. So the homework question and the conversation question was, do you like the please at the end? So Please means pleading, maybe needy and pathetic, and some students don't like that. Other students do. Pleading is poignant, gives the poem pathos, shows how much she really wants it. The poem is wishful thinking. And maybe lots of things we write or say, we really want to put please after them. Maybe nothing is actually true, or not for sure. We just wish it were true and fear that it's not. Maybe everything we say should have please at the end. Okay, now we get to the well spouse somehow. You have memoirs. Your memoirs of spousal chronic illness, so those memoirs are up there for sale, but but I'm not reading from them today. They're prose. They're not poetry. Hopefully they're poetic. But so my first husband had multiple sclerosis, MS, and I was an at-home caregiver for too long. I was a reluctant caregiver. I was not a happy caregiver, and I have controversial things to say about that, such as that society has some nerve expecting that. You know, I know caregivers who are 70, talking about 70, 75, who are doing lifting, what I call nights lifting and toileting, and you're waking up all hours of the night and lifting onto the toilet, how's that? Two birds with one stone, right? So I have a memoir of at-home caregiving called Dirty Details, the days and nights of a well spouse. And a well spouse is someone whose spouse is chronically unwell, so it's forever. You know, it's not as long as the ill spouse lives, which is sometimes forever, long time. And my second memoir, called Still the End, is memoirs of a nursing home wife. So that that's a whole other thing. Not as hard as at-home caregiving, but still hard. And about 2 weeks ago, not quite. So I've kept in touch with other so I'm a former well spouse, you know, happily married now to someone who's not yet, all of us, right? Ill.
He's not yet ill?
Well, I'm saying, you know, we all have our futures.
We're all going there.
Shouldn't have said they were all
He's
going
currently
there.
well.
Or suddenly. Currently very well. Very currently well.
Glad to hear.
Anyway. Okay. So I was so I have some of my well spouse friends I've kept in contact with, and we're still friends in various capacities, not only talking about, you know, our experiences. So a couple weeks ago, the annual well spouse weekend conference was nearby. It was in a Philadelphia airport hotel. And every time it's nearby, rather than in some distant state, you know, I'm asked to do a writing workshop. So I did a writing workshop at the conference, and things are always brought back to me. It brings things back. You know, I remember everything. You know, but I mean, I remember a lot. You know, but it brings home what just. Well, there are illnesses. I thought I knew it all. You know, I thought I knew all the illnesses that spouses could have. You know, and no, I find about new illnesses, new situations, and it's just, you know, it's hard on it was hard on me. It's harder on people who are actually well spouses. So, I think, I'm not sure, but I think I'm going to write a chapbook. You know, small book of poetry about the other well spouses, and I'll include my experiences in there also. So this poem is called Allison. I think that was her name. I remember a lot of things about her, and I'm not sure I remember her name correctly. I think her name is Allison. Anyway, so this is, you know, partially her story. This is Allison's first well spouse conference. She's one of our young well spouses, married 4 years, well spoused for 3. Her husband has a morphine drip implanted in his back, plus a number of other conditions. She says she wants to write, not for publication, just for her own gratification. In my writing workshop, she was the only one who chose not to share what she'd written. I wonder what that was. Okay, so that's just one of the things I'm working on. Okay, I promised you, no, not yet. My latest book, chapbook, small book, called New Heights in Non-Structure, it's called. My family, or my two youngest kids, homeschooled for 8 years. So I always believed in homeschooling in a non-structured way, and finally we got to do it. Our family got to do it. And this is a series of poems coming from that, not only from that experience, but just from interactions with children, some good, some bad, and ideas that I've had. And I'll mention Devin. Devin is my youngest son, now almost 32 years old. But then younger than that, kid. Okay, so this is called the anti-coloring book. Do you remember when the anti-coloring book? It's supposed to be creative, whereas the coloring book is not creative, and they would have, I don't remember, but things that you do besides just color, and it's supposed to be creative. Pardon?
Never saw one.
Okay, so that, good, I'm glad I mentioned it. When was this, in the 70s or 80s or something? So this is called the anti-coloring book. Okay, Kid's Eye's view of the anti-coloring book. Okay, so for a long time, Devin preferred coloring books to the anti-coloring book. Adults are used to coloring books, so they're not creative to adults. But to a kid who's never seen a coloring book, well, the very idea of them, like my X's and Y's in algebra, like Kitty's friend, clashing prints coming together in a seam of one of her quilts. Or like oak tag paper, they're a very special type of pastelness, independent of what gets done with it. So the surreal impression of a scene without color, only outlines. Yes, we could go one step lower than just plain coloring in a coloring book. We could really look at the coloring book and not color at all. So I don't know if we remember oak tag paper from when I was a kid. Anyone here remember oak tag paper? I don't know if they make it anymore. I don't know if you can buy it. But they do. They still. Where do you get it? At our supply stores, maybe.
No.
It's like
Home Depot
something
has
like
it.
construction paper, but different texture. Go ahead.
Home Depot, I think, still has it. Sandpaper. They call it something else, but still sandpaper.
Sandpaper?
Yeah, but different grades of it also.
Oak tag paper was different pastelish type colors. I've written several
Oh.
poems about oak tag paper. This is different.
Okay.
But it's a type of paper you can use. It's like colored, we used to call it colored paper, but
No.
construction paper.
Completely different.
Completely different. It's a good type of oak tag paper. No, it's not oak. As far as I know, it's not made of oak. I don't know why it was called oak tag paper, but it was really pretty. And
What do you use it for? Making cards and stuff?
we use it for
Like
the same thing as
cardstock?
use construction paper for. I just loved the paper
It's
itself.
heavy? Like heavy paper?
No, it's about the same weight as, and it's pastelish sort of in color.
That's
It's like very pretty. So I wrote another poem about how I never actually did anything with the oak tag paper. I just liked it. I liked it. It was inspiring to me. It never actually inspired anything, other than, just looking at the paper, Okay, so, let's see. I think I'm going to read one more poem from this book. Yeah, it's called, Don't Read to Your Children. All right, but don't go by the title. Don't read to your children. Or not necessarily, or not all the time, and not instead of just plain holding them. When a parent reads to a kid, her voice is different from her regular voice. It's more distant, more monotone, or maybe less. It sounds as though she weren't speaking to the kid, as though she's speaking to someone else. And suppose she's speaking in the voice of one of the characters in the story, and suppose that character is evil. Singing to a kid, same thing. Devin used to say, don't sing. The singing voice is a different pitch. Maybe it sounds like it's coming from another dimension or another direction or another dimension. Sorry. When I read to Devin, was I dividing my attention between him and the story? Teaching, too. teaching voice is different, different pitch, different speed. Does the teacher teach children or subjects? What does she love more? The teacher-child subject matter triangle is not to be taken lightly. Maybe we should teach only when we don't know we're teaching. We think we're merely talking, merely telling. We think we're doing what we usually do. Okay, now I promised you back pain poems, so here they go. Anyone here ever contend with back pain? Oh, you're so lucky. You have?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, okay, you're not. You're so unlucky, whatever.
Yeah, I'd like to forget it.
So anyone here have like disc problems and stuff like that, or just plain? Yeah, okay, maybe we'll have that conversation after, after the reading, because I like to hear from people who've had that. So this is called It Gets Worse at Night. So for a while it wasn't waking me up at night, and then it was getting worse at night, you know, even with medication. So, it gets worse at night. And this is the doctor's words actually, but everybody says that, right? Things get worse at night. If you have a cold, it gets worse at night, okay? I try to fool it, make it believe this isn't nighttime. Turning on the light doesn't work, it knows this isn't sunlight. Walking around doesn't work, it knows this isn't a sidewalk. Night is night, no matter what I do. It might get better temporarily, but an hour after I lie down, night taps me on the shoulder. Night is not a friend. When I grieve, night is a friend, day is an enemy. But here now, night is the enemy. And early morning seems to be part of the night. Yeah. Time goes more slowly at night, more about night. Not only does it get worse at night, but time goes more slowly. I'm very good at telling how much time has passed. Correct you within 5 minutes.
Bookshop will be closing in 5 minutes at 8
That's
o'clock.
dirt.
Please finalize your selections and head up to the front register
Do we
to
have
check
to
out.
leave in 5
Fuck,
minutes?
I'm ready.
And,
Or we're locked in. It's
yeah, we can
Oh.
spend the night. We can spend a very long night here.
Wait a minute. Oh, no, that's not going to work.
Here, 5 minutes.
All right, let me think. All right. Oh, well.
Just the resistance.
All right, I'm not going to read this poem now. I'm going to read. Anyone here ever have an MRI? Okay, this is called Inside the MRI.
Okay.
Hopefully you won't have to have another MRI.
You have to leave.
I kept my eyes closed. I opened them only to check both open ends. One was too far away, the other was way behind my head. If perchance I needed desperately to get out, could I? Which exit is faster? Towards the one in front I'd shimmy, crawl along on my hurting back. The one behind looked like there might be something to grab onto, and so I planned my just-in-case escape. I checked one more time that both ends were open, and then I again closed my eyes. All right, well, we have to get out, don't we? Oh, well. Oh, okay, well, I promised you the dress rack, so I'll end with the dress rack poem. It has still a back pain poem. I guess we can call it Dress Rack to the Rescue. The other night, the pain felt like some bone was broken. So thinking about what Dr. Way said about state of mind affecting pain, I, in 7 out of 10, went out into the hallway where stands my rack of dresses. I spent hours deciding which jumpers would go with which tops, which sleeveless dresses would go with which jackets, and what to wear the next day and the day after that. And yes, that took time, took me through when the next meds would make me painless and drowsy, and when I was finished. And when I was finished, my back was, yes, almost painless. It had been, or seemed completely painless all those fun hours. Writing would have done it, or that fractal book, math. But this was what I chose, this time, my secondary interest in thrift store fashion, my passion for definite matter and pretty things. Well, there's more where that came from, but okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
I wish I had the clarity in mind.
If we have any book buyers, it's got to be quick.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming. You come back. Where are you from?
Next month.